Okay, interesting. Right. So, yesterday we were looking at creating a dynamic greetings card in Photoshop, and that's exactly what we're going to be continuing with. We're going to be making it smarter by a level. Let's just have a recap then on what we covered. And if you're watching this as a recording, you can, of course, watch the previous live stream recording where you can learn how to make most of the card that we are now looking at here in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is just walk you through what we made. So we had a background. We used some gradients to do the background. We had some snow made with another gradient here from solid to transparent, just there. Then above that, we had some snow, which was made with a vector shape, just there. So we had a vector shape going on for that. Then above that, we had a tree and some tinsel, both of which were generated in Photoshop and then turned into a smart object and had the oil paint filter applied to them just to get a bit of stylization in there. And then after that, we had some greeting text, which you can see across the top just there, currently being shown in German. Okay, and then a name down at the bottom, and they both had layer styles on them. Now, the additional thing that we have today is a decoration right at the top, which I'm turning on and off just now, because what I says was that we'll go through to a smarter level beyond where we were yesterday. So here is our file, and what I'm going to do is just call up the variables and the datasets panel here. Okay, and I'm just going to apply the current dataset to it and then just move through some of these things. So if I just wind back just a second, let's have a look at what's in the new smarter version here. So I've got a whole bunch of different data sets. I'll go to the one right at the top, the initial one here, Merry Christmas Dave. So you can see that at the top of the tree there is a nice star just there. It says Merry Christmas there and Dave, and there's snow in the background. I'll move into the next item on the data set, and now you'll see it says Frohe Weihnachten to Julia, and there is a snowflake atop the tree just there. Okay, let's move on to the next one. You'll see that there is a star there. Happy holidays, Angie. A star at top of the tree. No snow in the background. Angie lives in Oregon. And where she lives, probably not that much snow. Might be, don't know. But no snow in the background here. Now, if I click through to the next one, Merry Christmas Rufus, you can see that it's still a star decoration. There's snow in the background. Okay, and the next one, Happy Holidays Von, another person in Oregon, actually, from there. And there's a star at the top of the tree, no snow. And if I go to Mark, okay, also star, no snow. Go through to the next one. So this one says Frohe Weihnachten Jeanette, just there, okay. And you can see there's snow. There's also a snowflake at the top of the tree. So what's happening here is a few things. So yesterday we really only explored what was going on with the text. We made the text change, okay, so in response to things that were in our very, very simple data set, which had only two particular variables, name and holiday or greeting. Okay, now we've got a lot more going on. So we've got, in addition to those two variables, we've also got a visibility variable, and that controls the layer snow and turns that on and off. And we've also got a replacement layer, so a pixel replacement layer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically back this up here. Let me just come away from that a second. And if I can, I'll go back to the definitions of the data set just here. Okay, and if I go back to previous, just there, that's just going to cycle me through those particular things. So we'll just carry on back through there. Okay, it's just going to take me back between the two. But on the actual file itself, if I just hit OK and then just turn the decoration layer on and off, because it's still applying that data set. So let's flush it actually. Let's go to variables and data sets. Okay, and then we can just trash the current data sets here just to go back to that. So let's go right the way back to the beginning here, and we can actually remove those in a number of ways. So, but we'll just do that. We'll just trash all the data sets that we've currently got there. So we go right the way back to the beginning, and it's still showing me that star flake, but not to worry. So let's actually build a couple of these things back out, or look at them in more detail. So if I go to the data now, which I've actually got a text file this time, and I've made it nice and large, easy for you to see. Okay, here it's comma separated, all right, and it is just plain text. It's not even a CSV, it's just a text file. Okay, and so you can see the variables across the top are name, holiday, decoration, and snow. Now, yesterday I did have an error when I was actually bringing a data set in, and if you were watching, you will remember that there was a column that had no values in whatsoever, okay, and that actually caused the error because there was a comma at the very end of each of these lines, which meant Photoshop was expecting more information, and that information was not going to be forthcoming from the file. That's why it generated an error, and it's only when I selected and removed those parts that it actually work. So let's just get my face out of the way, because I've noticed I'm right in the corner. I'm on the naughty list, by the way. You can see, always on the naughty list. Okay, so let's just go back so we can concentrate just on the file in front of us. Okay, and here you can see all of those different values. So each one, comma separated. So the value Dave is equivalent to name, then a comma, which means that Merry Christmas is equivalent to holiday. Star.png is equivalent to decoration. True means show the snow layer. Okay, two values there, true and false. You can't leave it empty. You have to state one thing or another. If we come down to the line for Angie, just here, okay, you'll see that's the first instance of false equivalent to the snow layer. So if you want to show and hide layers, okay, then that's what you need, true or false. And you can have as many as you need. If you needed a number of different things there, you may just have false, false, true, false, and so on with other things. Looking at the files, so I'll go back into Photoshop and we'll just have a quick look at this. In fact, we'll actually pop across into the Finder on my Mac here, and we'll create a new window, and then I'll go to where this stuff lives, just here. Okay, so inside of here, if I just go into icons view for this for the second, this is the text file, holidays.txt. This is my main card. Notice the camel casing on there. Not essential for that, but I just think it's good to get into the practice of doing it. So that's the template that's being used. And then in exactly the same folder location, I've got two files. So snowflake.png, okay, and the other one star.png. And both of these were created just using vector shapes inside of Photoshop and styling them with this light yellow and a white outside just there. And also having a little bit of a layer style applied to that layer in the first place. Now, the reason I'm showing you these and that they're all in the same location is it actually makes your job easier when you're working with them, because if you don't have it that way, then you have to spell out the entire path name to get to that file, and it has to come right from the root. Okay, so if you were on a Windows machine, just for example, okay, what you would need to do, okay, is you would have to spell it out right from the C drive down. Similarly, on a Mac, you'd have to go right from users, your username, or the username where it's coming from, down through the folders until you end up just there. That's when it starts to get a bit messy. So if you are able to have all of the files inside of the same folder, that makes it a little bit easier. I hope you get that, okay? Nice and easy to work with. Right, so that's what we've got there. The name, text replacement in the first two things there. So if I went for this name, there's the holiday. That's the file that it's going to replace, okay? And that says show this layer on there. It isn't difficult, really. It's not too hard to get used to at all, I think. Okay, so let's go back to Photoshop, because when I actually created this layer just here, all I did was to place actually just a rectangle in there in the first place. So I'm going to just delete that layer just for the minute. I'm going to add a brand new one by clicking the plus, and then I'm going to get my rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to make a regular shape here. Doesn't have to be regular, but it will make your life somewhat easier when you do that. Okay, and then I'll just move that into position, that selection, like so. And then on this layer, I'm going to fill it with color, like that. So I just used Alt backspace, and it filled it with the white of the foreground color, just there, like so. And then I'll deselect that. Now I'm going to rename this layer decoration. Again, not essential for me to do that. It could be called layer whatever. I just think that when you are working with dynamic documents in any form, naming is important. Knowing where you are is really important. I'm going to bring my face back onto the screen again so I can say it's important. Okay, don't forget that. Right, so that's what I did just there. And then when I was defining the variables, I set this up as pixel replacement. Now I'll open up the PNG file. Okay, so if I just go into there, I'll just open one of those. I'll open the snowflake one like so. Okay, so here is our snowflake. You'll notice that this has a rectangular canvas. Why is that, you may ask yourself? Sorry, I said rectangular, I meant square. Why is that, you may ask yourself? Does it have to be a regular rectangle? No, it doesn't. But when you are defining the variable, okay, so if I just go back here to the image menu, down to variables and define, okay, what I'll do is select pixel replacement. It's very handy, this, in Photoshop, because it doesn't show you anything that doesn't relate to it. Visibility can be controlled here. Pixel replacement can be controlled here. It doesn't show me any values for text. So if I choose pixel replacement, then I need to add the variable, okay, that I've got inside of my data. And if we just pop back there a second, you'll see that variable is called decoration. In fact, it's not a bad idea wholly to actually copy that from the data and then paste it into there, because if you make a spelling mistake or whatever, it's not going to work properly. Now, the reason I said that I'm going to use square here is because there are 4 different methods of replacement to use here. Okay, so this one is set to fit. Okay, so it will fit, and if you hover over each one, so if I hover over fit, you'll see that it tells me underneath, and I know this is going to be tricky to see if you're on a phone, it tells me that the fit method resizes the image to fit when the within the bounding box when preserving proportions. I ought to read that out again. You'd never guess I've done voiceover work, would you? The fit method resizes the image to fit within the bounding box while preserving proportions, right? So it will do whatever is necessary to make it fit. So fill will do a similar thing. So if I hover over fill, okay, it just resizes the image to fill the bounding box, preserving the proportions. Okay, and it might overlap the edges if it's a different size. as is, okay, that just takes the method of the before, so it preserves the size of the replacement, but it might overlap edges in one or both directions. So you need to build with that in mind if you're building it. And conform, okay, that's the one that will almost certainly distort if there's any discrepancy. So if I had, for example, drawn a rectangle with an aspect ratio arbitrarily of 5:4 or 4:3, and I had a 1:1 image to place in it, some stretching's gonna happen. Okay, so that's the thing, but it depends how you want it to be dealt with. Okay, I'm just going to choose fill just here. Actually, no, I'll choose conform. We'll have conform like that. Okay, and that's done. And so that would then replace, if I went back to my variables here and to my data sets. Now, sometimes, this doesn't work as it's supposed to. I'm going to bring in, however, a data set. So I'm going to select a file here. So I'll choose import, and I'll choose from that file. So if I go into the variable step 2 folder here, holidays.txt. Okay, this actually was written with Unicode UTF-8 in mind, and I'm going to make sure it replaces the existing data set like so. Okay, and I can then apply that. Now, I'm getting something here telling me it couldn't replace or apply the dataset because the replacement file was not found. Now, I have had that on a number of occasions. Normally, okay, if you have that row highlighted and then you select the actual file, okay, so this is looking for snowflake PNG. I just point it to that file. It normally kicks in and works okay. Now, we'll find out, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the previous data set. Now, this one's looking for star PNG, so I'm going to select that file. I shouldn't have to do it for each and every one. This should be it. It should understand those linkages now. So if I move through, no, you see, it's not going to. That's very weird that it does that, because it should actually recognize it straight away. Very, very curious here that it's not doing that. But let me just see. You shouldn't have to do it. And if it's named properly, you definitely shouldn't have to do it. But here, of course, it's going to, because, well, it's live. So that's the way it works. Just here. Let me just go back a few spaces here to when I had the original file, because I want to move on from that. It should work, I promise you. Okay, so let me just go ahead and import that data set again, just here. Okay, so I'll bring that in. Let's have a quick check. Wow. Of course, the minute you're in front of something, that's when it's going to happen. It's going to go crazy. Bizarre. Shouldn't do that, but it actually is. So let me revert this particular file back to how I had it saved, because fortunately I can do that. I've got the luxury of doing it. And I'll go back to the data sets, because what I really want to show you now is how we actually export these things. So let me just go through there, and I promise you all I had to do was link just the one time, and it worked perfectly well. Who knows what was happening there, right? But you can see now that that is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So it's selectively showing and hiding a layer. Let's go back to the data just for a moment. So let's find one here that said, okay, Von Happy Holidays star.png false. We'll go back here. And actually, that's the one we're on now, Von. Okay, so you can see it's Von there, Happy Holidays, showing the star, no snow. So all great. So we know that that's working. So how do you export them then? How do you go about doing this? Do you do this? Do you go to variables and data sets, or apply data set from here, which will open up this window showing all of the available data sets? You can click through them here as well. If you turn on preview, Tony, everybody would see that. Fantastic. Right, so I can click through that way. Do I do that and apply a data set and then save that out from there? Do I go File and Export and Quick Export as PNG? Well, I could, but actually, I do this for a living, right? So I don't want to do that because I've got more interesting things to do. Instead, what I would do is go to the File menu. I would come down to the Automate and Scripts section just here, right? Because there's loads and loads of different things. And in here, somewhere, in one of these fabulous things, I should have an option to actually export all of these at one go. And I think I'm missing where it is. Here we are. It's in Export, Tony. It's datasets as files. I'm sure it used to be in Automate, which is why I was thinking there, but datasets as files. I then get this dialog here. So where are they going to go? So I'm going to select a folder. I'm going to go out to my desktop. I'm going to create a new folder called exports, like so. All right. Do that and choose that. So that's where it's going. What data set do I want to send? Right. I actually want to do all of them. How do I want to name them? Okay, so I can choose various different variables just there. I'll choose dataset name for this one. Then an underscore. Okay, and I actually don't need the ones beneath. That's just fine. I'm just going to say none just there and none for the others. Okay. And then the file extension, you can either have it in lowercase or uppercase. And they're going to be saved out as PSDs. Okay, so I'll hit OK. And then it will just whir away for a second or two. Let's go back to my Finder just here. And I'll create a new window. Go to the desktop. Go to Exports. And you can see there is that particular set of things. Now, of course, Facebook doesn't know what a PSD is, does it? Yeah, it can't do anything with a PSD. So what we've then got to do, okay, is change those PSDs into a file that we can use. And that's definitely where we come down to this area just here, to scripts and to image processor, like so. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a folder. That folder is going to be exports, like so. So choose all of those things. Okay, and then I'm going to save them. You can save them in the same location, but I'm going to save them to another folder that I'm going to create just now. So I'm going to create a new folder. Okay, and let's just call that usable just for the point of doing this. And let's hit open just there. So it's going to pick all of those images, put them in here when they're done, and it's going to save them as a JPEG. Okay, I'm going to change the quality there to 12, like so, because that's how it works in Photoshop, right? Between 0 and 12, just there. I could convert that profile, could also save them as a PSD, but they're already a PSD, or as a TIFF, just there. You could additionally run actions on them as well, but I'll choose run. Okay, and then it flashes like crazy for a second just there. But if we go back to the Finder and go into usable, we've got a folder there called JPEG. Super fun. But you see, there we are. We've got a whole bunch of JPEGs, okay, that we can use just there to pop into Facebook, all